Most people agree that students need more than just learning in the classroom. Whether it's sports, the arts, community service, or work on a science project, outside activities are often crucial in opening doors to a better future. That also applies to the Boston Debate League. In recent years, there have been attempts to make this opportunity available to students in more schools, and that requires an infusion of new mentors. Our guest has risen to the challenge, and he's even devoted some of his blogging skills to spell out the 10 best reasons for mentoring. He's also a real estate and environmental partner at the Boston law firm Tarlow, Breed, Hart & Rogers. We'd like to welcome Greg Peterson. Thank you very much for being with us, Greg.
Thank you.
First of all, one of the things I noticed from your blog is that the teachers you've spoken with in the Boston schools say that of all the extracurricular things going on, this is the best. Why? Why is that?
It captures kids' attention. It gets kids involved from deep down inside in a way that a lot of other activities sometimes don't, and it uses those natural proclivities on the part of students to want to compete with each other, to want to be seen to be cool and be the best, to do some things that frankly don't come that naturally to students, and in particular reading, analytical thinking, and really building a whole set of skills that are very important, in adult life and particularly in business and professional life.
Well, talk about you before your adult life when you were a student. Did you do anything like this, and was it all that crucial for you?
It was absolutely critical for me. Yeah, I did speech and debate when I was, a kid a long time ago in western Montana, and it opened worlds to me. I mean, I would never have made it to the East Coast. I don't think I would have made it onto a serious college, quite frankly, if I hadn't been involved in the program, because it tapped into those inclinations to find out more about the world, and so I assumed that other kids would have the same kind of experience.
What have you found in the schools? Because the way you portray this in your blog is that, at least in your experience, the students are intelligent and motivated. You don't hear that about students usually these days, but this seems to be quite interesting here.
It was the single most surprising thing to me, actually, about the Boston public school system. And I should say that my particular mentoring work was at Charlestown High School, although clearly I attended tournaments and I saw people from all of the 17 schools, high schools in the system that are part of the debate league. But yeah, the kids are very bright, very on top of their game in terms of thinking about problems and recognizing good arguments when they hear them, and wanting to get a better argument to come back with the next time around. But they lack some fundamental abilities to get there in terms of reading for comprehension, pronunciation of words, estimation so that you can bound or band a problem, and being able to reform it in their own metaphors and in their own language. And that's really where they quickly experience the power of debate, that it makes them better at the kinds of things that they know are worth being better at.
Well, being a mentor means more than just criticizing what you can recognize as a mistake. So get a little bit more, what's involved? What's the heart of this thing?
Well, the heart of this thing is really being there for teenagers. Teenagers, cool is very important to them. They don't like to show weakness. You need to spend time. And the teachers, frankly, are really find themselves in a situation where they're already pulled in a million different directions. Many people, I'm sure, are not aware of this, but your typical Boston public high school teacher's day starts, 6:30 every morning. So imagine having to be at your office at 6 or 6:30 every morning, ready to go, and then the day lingers on with, all kinds of activities and classes and prepping for classes and all the rest of it. So the teachers need help. The thought that one or two teachers are going to be able to listen to every debater, work with every debater as they try to improve their reading skills, as they ask questions about, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? Let's try out a couple of different arguments in response. You just need more professional bodies, more thinking bodies, so that there can be more time on task for the kids.
Also talk about how important it is for the kids to be in this kind of a contact with an adult Yeah, and the contact that's different from the relationship with the teacher who can grade you, because I think that matters a lot.
Completely different, and you're absolutely right, Chris. That is critical, because at the end of the day, the teachers can grade the students, right? The students have to be a little bit careful, right? With someone who's an adult from the outside who has other kinds of experiences that, by the way, the kids also value, right? Because a mentor has a job. A mentor has had to figure some of these things out for themselves. But a mentor is not a parent, and a mentor is not a teacher. So there's a willingness to be open and to listen. What I found is important is just spending as much time as you can with the kids so that eventually they ask the question. They'll reveal the teachable moment to you. And at that point, you simply have to answer the question, or sometimes answer their question with a question, because often they already know the answer to the question, and they're just looking for affirmation.
And you're also helping someone who's between 14 and 18 who wants to feel like they're an adult.
Completely. They want that level of respect.
Well, talk about the kind of time here that's involved, because teachers aren't the only people who get up early in the morning and sometimes work late. So you're trying to get various types of people, including attorneys, to pitch in here. So what's it like?
Well, it's certainly not as time-consuming or as difficult as some people might fear. In my case, I spent 2 late afternoons a week over at Charlestown High School for debate practice, and it wasn't 2 weeks. I mean, it wasn't 2 afternoons every week, because sometimes there were other things going on with the teachers or the students, and practice had to be canceled. So that would typically be about an hour to 2 hours. So somewhere between 2 and 4 hours a week in terms of commitment there, and then 4 or 5 times out of the year being at tournaments and just watching kids debate, giving them additional feedback, explaining when they didn't quite understand the feedback from a judge what that meant. And that's probably, that could be anywhere from, 4 hours on a Friday evening, or it could be, 6 or 7 hours in the course of a Saturday, or some combination of that. And not every weekend either. You can really mix and match this, as meets your needs, because the teachers have obligations too, and you work it out with them.
And one of the other things you notice here is this is a way to help groom some potential attorneys in the future. Why is that important to you?
I think it's absolutely critical to me that the profession, have complete access to the full range of people that we have in this society. If we only have white guys from the suburbs, or increasingly white guys and white women from the suburbs in the legal profession, we're not really going to be able to make the kinds of laws, interpret the laws, and see justice through in the way that it needs to be done. These kids have very real experiences, in their own lives with justice and right and wrong, and their own, experience of the right way to do things. Many of them are hungry to go on and work in the professions, and giving them a sense that, that's a dream that they can and should have, to be a judge or to be a lawyer or to be a politician, is worth it.
Well, you're also recruiting for mentors of the near future, so if people want to follow you up on that, what's the best way to do it?
Well, the best way to do that would be to reach out to the Boston Debate League, and you can go to bostondebate.org and volunteer there. If you're a lawyer, I would encourage lawyers to be in touch with Sonia Shaw at the Boston Bar Association, which has launched a new partnership with the Boston Debate League, and also feels very strongly about recruiting the future lawyers and judges into the system. I would mention one other thing, which is that if the prospect of somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 6 hours on average a week seems just like too much of a commitment. The other thing that the Boston Debate League is in desperate need of are volunteer judges. And it's anyone who has a college degree can do this. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to have been a debater. that's a relatively limited time commitment, you know, as little as 4 hours a year. And it makes a tremendous difference to the kids. First, because it allows the coaches and mentors to actually be in the debates and hear the debates and do a good job coaching, as opposed to being forced into involuntary judge duties because not enough judges show up. And the more important reason is that these kids are hungry for adults to listen to them and give them feedback. A number of my law partners and indeed staff, secretaries at our firm, were judges over the course of last year at various tournaments. One African-American woman in our firm said, you know, came up to me afterward and said she came away suddenly believing like there was a real future possibility out there. One of my partners was nominated for, you know, judge of the tournament, and it blew him away. I mean, it just, you know, it lifted his spirits tremendously. So, you know, it's kind of like that, you know, dog rescue sign on the back of cars. Who rescued who?
That's right. Good question. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Greg Peterson from the Boston Debate League and Boston Bar Association. We'll have more news in just a moment.